Do you guys know of Hatsune Miku? I know her. It's a really weird feeling seeing people say they know Hatsune Miku from Project Sekai, not like, I don't know, the In There or any Vocaloid song. Obviously that'd be a given since time has passed and people will discover things in new ways, but I'm me, so I feel incredibly alienated. I still remember the first time I got into Hatsune Miku, with my sister showing me a song and the point that this song that sounds cool but you don't understand. Well, guess what? The lyrics are dark and it's about death. The one thing I always heard about Project Sekai is that it has really complex characters and interesting story. And as someone who likes characters and stories, I love stories. Main characters. I thought I'd take an actual deeper look at the game for this video. Is any of what was said about the game true? Probably. Am I exaggerating it slightly? Probably. But as someone who's been interested in this game for a while and only just now wants to play it, I want to give a first perspective on this game and if the story resonates with me. So let's go! Alright, so the first issue was actually getting to record the footage. Apple sucks in every single way, and there was no relatively easy free solution to recording their products, so I had to go through a few programs. Oh, this is actually hideous. This watermark right here is actually god-awful. But I reached one free program. It has this god-awful unregistered text, but that's besides the point. Also, I completely forgot putting your device on Do Not Disturb disables the sound, so Now, I know I wasn't going to be able to cover all the groups here in one video, so I decided to cover two of them. The one that pushes me toward at the beginning of that test thing, and the one that I was most interested in. These groups were LeoNeed and Nightcord at 2500. While I was recording, I didn't exactly know when to stop, but I decided to watch 10 to 11 episodes to get a good idea of the story. I don't expect the story to resolve itself in that time, but I hope I get a grasp of how the story's gonna go and the ideas it'll introduce. Also, I actually have had like a little experience with this game, but for the sake of this video, let's just assume I'm like stupid or something. Dude, I suck at this game! With that being said, let's head into LeoNeed. Hatsune Miku scares me. The main premise of LeoNeed is that four childhood friends who were once in a band together slowly separate from each other until one of them suddenly returns, hoping to bring them back together. These four are Ichika, Saki, Hanami, and Shiho. They were all chill with each other until Saki one day had to get hospitalized, and due to certain events that happened later on, they were basically strangers toward each other. The test in the beginning shaped LeoNeed to be nostalgia heavy, and yeah, I resonate with that a lot. There's a ton of old friends and people that I've just sort of naturally separated from over the years, and I sometimes think about. Sometimes it's not on purpose and you don't know what's going on in someone's life, so maybe they just need to shift priorities and you were left hanging. Of course, there are some scenarios where bad turns are made and things weren't communicated well that can also lead to situations like this. The past is very special, and it's why reunions always have a sort of special place in my heart. If only I had my own Sekai. Oh yeah, Sekai. I'm still not exactly sure what this is, but the main gist is that it represents our emotions and how we feel on the inside. Miku describes it as a place where we can find our true feelings and be able to express it in the form of a song. The method of getting into Sekai is kind of strange though. You open up your phone with some file called Untitled and you get teleported there. In any other game this would be in the horror genre. The character we follow throughout most of the story is Ichika, and how she's the only one that supposedly misses what her old friend group used to be. Miku seems to have some prophecy foreshadowing power telling Ichika that there's a chance for her and her friends to be reunited again. And she's right. The day after, Saki suddenly returns back to school, very unaware of what's happened with the group. And after all four of them get sent to a Sekai where they play a song together, Saki and Ichika are determined to get everyone back into the band. Within the 11 episodes I watched, I feel there's a ton of depth within these characters already. I already like Saki for being heavily optimistic but not oblivious. Usually when I think of a trope like this, the optimistic character is usually oblivious until very later on in the story, so it's neat to have her already be aware of what's happening. I think Shiho is my personal favorite right now though. I stopped right when she joined the band, but her philosophy and mindset already intrigues me the most. She's someone who's easily misinterpreted by others, and trying to rebel against that, even when it's not for herself, pushes that interpretation even further. She has a different way of expressing her feelings, and I'm always a fan of those types of characters. I try to keep an open mind a lot of the time because of characters and people I've met who express things differently. I've done that myself a lot, and I know how it feels for people to see it not the angle you wanted it to be portrayed as. It's revealed Shiho separated from the old friend group to protect the others and their reputation, which just makes me like her even more. The one thing that made me definitively like Shiho though is how she tests Ichika and Saki. She gives them a sheet of music saying if they can play it with her, she'll join their band. Now the sheet of music is hard as balls, but they work hard in order to get her to join. I like it a lot because of two things. One, she wants to see how much they care for her. It's clear that she doesn't want to continue this distance between her friends, and while this next part isn't confirmed, I like to think that if she doesn't know if she herself cares for them, then the best course of action is seeing if they care for her. Do they really mean what they say, even after all these years? Well, if they do, then they'll be able to perform their sheet of music to prove it, and that's what I got out of that scenario. Oh yeah, my second point is that it's in character for her. She establishes earlier that she wants to know people are putting in effort since her previous band didn't do shizzles, so it makes sense she gives them a tough sheet of music. Yep, that's it. It's the little things that matter. I don't have much to say about Ichika and Hanami right now. The story hasn't really hit them yet. I feel like Ichika has just been the audience's eyes right now, and Hanami has something, but I'm not sure as of right now. And I think that's okay given this is a live service game. This stuff is supposed to conclude after a long period of time. If there is one thing I really love about the concept of Sekais, it's just what they represent. They represent people's true emotions, and it's one of the places that can be visually seen. It doesn't need to have a whole paragraph on what it represents because you can see it. It's also cool that when people share a Sekai, they share the same vision, the same goals and ambitions, so you're basically looking within their heart and what they actually want. When all of LeoNeed is in a Sekai, it's still the same as when Ichika was in it, meaning that the same emotion she has is what everyone else has as well, leading to it obviously saying that they all want to be together again, which is really sweet. Overall, LeoNeed is pretty good so far. It has a lot of interesting ideas and characters that can be fleshed out pretty easily. While I did enjoy it, however, I moved on to the next group which interested me the most. Nightcord at 2500. I think their mom's a bitch. Anytime I hear something about Project Sekai, it's usually about these folks, and I always hear that they have some of the best characters. Now, I don't like setting standards or expectations. Sometimes people overhype things, and I don't want to let that get in the way of me experiencing media and the like. It can even ruin the perception of fan bases and the like depending on what gets talked about. With that being said, this group is fucking amazing. As I'm writing this script, I don't even want to talk about the story because I just want to talk about the characters. But I'm trying to establish a formula here, so I'm just gonna do like a 1-sentence review. Nightcord at 2500 is a group that produces music videos, and they comprise of 4 members. One's the artist, one's the video editor, aka me, one's a mixer slash composer, and one sings, I think. Along with the music videos, all of them have immense shit going on in their lives, and with one of them being the main focus to save because the other members don't, it's heavily implied she's gonna kill herself. These 4 are Kanade, Ina, Mizuki Akiyama, and Mafuyu, and within the span of only a few episodes, I'm already attached to all of them. This is not meant to discredit LeoNeed in any way. If there's one thing I can say that is really cool about Project Sekai is that it seems that every group is completely different, both with its visual style, songs, but also how it tells its story. LeoNeed takes its time introducing its members, and it works well for that story since it's regarding childhood friends meeting again. Here though, they are already familiar with each other, so we can get right into the characters themselves, and oh my god. I don't exactly know where to start, so Mizuki. Hey, Future Noodle here. I checked Mizuki's webpage and realized that their gender isn't exactly defined. I went to the headcanon that they were trans since that was what I knew them as before playing this game. I completely neglected over how they address Mizuki in the story, which is with they, them. I address Mizuki as she or her here, and if you are uncomfortable with that, you can skip to the next section. Obviously in the future I will use they, them, but I just want to make a note here about it so people are aware that I sort of messed up here. She's trans. I don't know if that's controversial outside the Project Sekai zone, but it's pretty blunt, and I don't mean to say that she's just trans. That obviously isn't the case, but I guess I was just surprised on how fast they present and how clear-cut they were. Within the very few short episodes I watched, she's made me so interested in her backstory, how she feels, and what she has to deal with in terms of other people looking at her wrong. The short scene where Mafuyu states that everyone wants to disappear, even Mizuki, and she pulls that in that monotone voice tells me a crap ton. She isn't able to shrug off the things people say to her entirely, and deep down, like all the other characters in the group, she probably wants to kill herself because of who she is. I'm just really happy that despite being a visual novel game, there's so many things you can see written in the voices and the visuals, something that doesn't need a paragraph being said, and I love that. It leaves both room for interpretation, but also a sense of, I get it, for those who are able to relate but not know the exact words to describe it. Being serious, I am trans, and seeing Mizuki, obviously, I can relate to them and partially what they've experienced. I've seen bits of their backstory and who they used to be, and I've grown attached to them, and I'm glad I can actually play this game and actually see their story unfold, along with their amazing fashion sense. Mafuyu is probably the most important to this story so far, being the main focus and the one beak who says, please save her, come on. I don't know the exact words to describe how I feel about her, but that's because I'm not that far in the story. But I absolutely love her character. She expresses herself in a way that always has a double meaning, that depending on the context, her words and the meaning of it can shift entirely. One thing I was scared of going into her character was seeing how they visually show Mafuyu and her immense amount of depression. I knew they weren't going to do this, but if they just had her switch on a dime like happy mode to depressed mode, I was going to be slightly pissed. Not saying that isn't realistic, some people are that way, I was that way when I was heavily depressed, but you know, there's always signs no matter how big or small, and I'm glad Project Sekai knows that. The biggest sign being when her father calls her their pride and joy. That single line is almost enough to shatter whatever version of her she currently has projected up. She only lives up for others, following whatever version that people want of her, and never discussing what she wants. When people ask her what she wants, she shifts it to them instead. I also like that she used the Sekai for escapism. We haven't seen how people utilize Sekais besides just chilling to talk and train, but for someone who uses to cope and express themselves in a way, it is an interesting idea. This is just me thinking here, so I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm pretty sure people just fall asleep when they're in the Sekai or unconscious. If that's the case, you could easily interpret Mafuyu's escapism as sleeping away, the one place where you don't have to worry about anything. Mafuyu's a really good character so far, and I'm excited to see where the story takes her, but I won't lie, I like the others way more for personal reasons, aka Ina and Kanade, and Mizuki. I think Ina and Kanade exhibit similar traits that I used to be and still slightly am guilty of. This obsession over work for a certain purpose seems courageous at first, feeling that you have a destiny or goal, but sometimes it can go overboard and be the only thing you think about, the only way you get through life, and it can be extremely dangerous. Kanade constantly has the goal of trying to save as many people as possible, and Ina, coming from a father of talent, is obsessed with wanting to get her art to succeed and be known for it. The 2500 of Nightcord is pretty accurate. All of the members stay up incredibly late, with some of them I'm pretty sure do all-nighters. They're unhealthily obsessed, and it leads to health problems along with erratic behavior that's sad but understandable to see. I feel like I relate to Ina the most though. She wants to keep going higher and higher and she wants to be known for it. She gets a lot of attention for photos of herself, but not her work. When you put your priority in your life per se on art, it leads to anyone's perception of it being an influence on how you feel. I'll make it personal here. I have the script right there, but I'm just gonna look over here for some occasionally. But I'm a video editor, so you can already sort of tell some of the comparisons and the like. And I used to be so obsessed with editing. I mean, I still am, but back like a few years ago, I was obsessed with editing and I was also depressed, so it was a horrible combo. But that sort of depression streak sort of just led me to sort of constantly be editing. So around the time of 2020, 2021, 2022, you can actually look on my Twitter page. If like I have my own editing page, if you scroll down, you can just like keep seeing every single edit I made. It was just so I could feel something. My life was attached to editing, so when a post flopped or didn't do as well as I hoped it did, like, you know, got the attention, it would ruin me. I would sometimes have, you know, some mental breakdown, you know, just get extremely depressed and stuff, just trying to push through and try to make more content just so I can make myself like feel better. And, you know, it would spread to me being more harsher on myself, and sometimes it'd be an end justifies the means type of scenario where I would sort of start doing all-nighters to just sort of get that progress done. Be like, no matter what, I gotta do this, no matter what. That, you know, if I just put in the work, maybe it'll succeed and I'll feel something, I'll feel relieved, and I'll get that meaning in my life. And I think the worst part about it, that doesn't really get talked about that often, well, at least for me at least, when I was depressed, when I edited like, you know, all nights and stuff, I created some of my best work that I have not been able to replicate today. Now I'll get into it soon, but some of the work I produced in that era, that time, was so good. And fortunately I'm better now. Like, it took years, it took a long time for me to like fully like feel better, not resort myself to being depressed. I mean, snap, oh, I'm not depressed anymore, but it was a long process. But when I was better, I realized I didn't have those skills anymore. I wasn't able to put in all that effort to editing anymore, and I was sort of scared because the editing things that I used to make myself known for, I can't really do it as often anymore, and I don't really edit as much as often anymore, or at least I take more time to do so. I don't have that creativity anymore, and sometimes I've been indirectly told by some people with the way their actions speak that I'm not what I used to be. But I think I've grown a little bit, and I don't really take it as personally anymore. Like my whole life depending on ending, that doesn't really much of a thing anymore. Like just recently, I just finished an edit for Hasanasura of Love Life, and it did well. It did extremely well to the point that it broke up all the records of all my previous edits, and I don't feel that much. And I think that's a good thing. Like back then, if I was in that old mindset, that old like, you know, old mindset, I would be ecstatic, you know, I'd be so happy. But I know that happiness would not last, knowing that like I could do better, you know. So now that my life's not dependent on editing, I just look and be like, oh, that's cool, you know, it did better. And I think it finally proved to myself that, you know, it doesn't matter anymore. Like, it's okay if I'm not the best like I used to anymore. And seeing how Kanade and Ina act, more specifically Ina, with her mindset, I can sort of look back at that and be like, yeah, I used to be like that. I can't really fully say me for real, because it's just a really unhealthy way, and I don't wish that upon anyone, because it can drastically ruin your life. So I'm glad I can say I'm no longer like that. All of these characters are people I'm so interested in, and one last detail I adore is that in the beginning of the story, it's implied that the dark and desolate Sekai is Mafuyu's, stated by Miku. But when everyone is in the Sekai, it's very clearly implied that the Sekai isn't just Mafuyu's, it's everyone. They all want to disappear. All of their emotions are the same as hers, even if they try to deny it. It's a small thing, but something that connects them all, and may ultimately bond them in the future. Although if I want to find out, I can just, you know, read the story. Also, I like that Kanade's father was never jealous or anything. I was expecting him to be spiteful when Kanade was better at music than him, but he's kinda awesome and just wants her daughter to do well. Shame about the whole hospital thing though. You can probably tell which group I like the most, but that's not entirely LeoNeed's fault. Project Sekai has a story for everyone. I haven't checked the other stories, but they all have a different vibe for them. If one isn't your style, you can check the others. It's like an anthology series by multiple writers with their different techniques and tone. It really feels like a world. or Sekai, different things are happening at the same time. And I'm glad the story structure, in a sense, is representative of that depending on which group it is. I really like Project Sekai, and I probably plan to play it further when I get the chance. There's just only one real negative I have about the game. I got jump scared by this orange hair dude. I don't like him. He seems weird. Well, that was fun. If you have any ideas and videos like, please suggest them. I'm looking at my script. I do not care. I do have a list of videos that I do on my Discord, like my own private Discord, where I just type in stuff, notes and stuff. But it'd be cool to do some other videos. Might do one for D4DJ, maybe some other rhythm games and the like. It sounds fun. I can do some things that I've been wanting to do for a while, but you know, time will tell. I'm just gonna be making videos and stuff. I don't really give a shizzles. But yeah. Anyway, bye.